She was just a tired single mom who accidentally fell asleep on a stranger's shoulder. During her daily train ride, what she didn't know was that the man she leaned on wasn't just kind. He was a millionaire hiding from his own life. But when secrets begin to crack and feelings get too real, will the truth bring them together or tear everything apart? If you're new to the channel, make sure to subscribe and give this video a like. It helps us share more inspiring stories like this one. And tell us in the comments, where in the world are you watching from? Now let's jump into the story. The train rocked gently as it moved through the city, the hum of tired passengers filling the early morning silence. Nora Linwood, a young mother in her 20s, sat in the middle of the packed carriage with her 10-month-old daughter Lila, asleep in a soft carrier on her chest. Nora's eyes were heavy. She hadn't slept more than 2 hours in the last 3 nights. Between her 2 jobs and Lila's teething cries, exhaustion had become her closest companion. She didn't mean to fall asleep. But as the train passed the 5th stop, her head slowly tilted to the side, finally resting on the shoulder of the stranger sitting next to her. The man, dressed in a plain gray hoodie and jeans, glanced down in surprise. He froze for a moment. Then, carefully adjusting his posture, he relaxed and let her rest. He didn't move, not even when his phone buzzed in his pocket. Instead, he watched the sleeping baby nestled peacefully against her mother's chest. When the train neared the downtown business district, Nora jerked awake, eyes wide, cheeks flushed with embarrassment. Oh no. I'm so sorry," she gasped, sitting upright and brushing her hair out of her face. "I must have, oh no, I fell asleep on you." "That's so embarrassing." The man gave a gentle smile. "No need to apologize," he said softly. "You're little." One didn't even stir. I think she liked the ride. Nora looked down at Lila, still sleeping soundly. "She was up all night," she said, her voice low with shame. "Crying. I tried everything. I guess I just shut down." For a moment. "Looks like you needed it," the man said kindly. "You look like someone who's been carrying the world." Nora gave a quick, tired laugh. "That's one way to put it. I work housekeeping at the Millridge Hotel, and I teach a night class. English for new speakers. It pays the rent." As soon as the words left her mouth, she bit her lip. Why was she telling a stranger this? She barely knew him. She glanced toward the train doors, realizing her stop was coming. "I'm rambling. Sorry again, and thank you for not waking me." "No need to thank me," he replied. "You deserve a break." The train pulled into the platform. Nora stood, adjusting the diaper bag on one shoulder and her work tote on the other. She moved with practiced clumsiness, still half sleeping, but all too aware of the time. She had only 7 minutes to clock in. "Wait," the man said as she stepped toward the door. "Do you take this train every day?" She turned halfway. "Yeah, the 6:30 red line, Monday to Friday." "Why?" He shrugged casually. "Just curious. Have a good day." "You too," she said with a small smile, stepping off the train dot as she walked quickly toward the hotel. She glanced over her shoulder. Through the train window, she saw him watching her. He gave a small wave before the train rolled away. Nora frowned a little. Something about his eyes had made her feel safe. It had been a long time since anyone made her feel that way. Gavin Reed sat still in his seat even as the train pulled away from the platform. His mind was oddly quiet, focused on the woman and her sleeping child. He had taken public transportation for the past 6 months by choice. Tired of limousines and glass towers, he wanted to feel life outside the luxury he'd always known. But today had been different. Today, someone had leaned on him, literally. And that tiny act had left a deep impression. He hadn't asked for her name, but it was stuck in his mind anyway. Nora. The way the baby's pacifier clip was labeled in tiny handwritten letters. He. arrived at his office on the 30th floor of a building that overlooked the very neighborhood where Nora worked. His assistant, Marta Delgado, greeted him with her usual efficiency. "Morning, Mr. Reed. Your meeting with the hotel partners is at 10. Also, your lunch with the Millridge investors is confirmed." Gavin's eyebrows lifted. "Millridge Hotel?" "Yes. Our tech division is hosting their conference there next week. Want me to cancel?" He shook his head, a strange feeling twisting in his chest. "No, don't cancel." He walked into his office, but his thoughts stayed elsewhere. Somewhere between that short train ride and the baby sleeping against her mother's chest, something inside him had shifted. Nora clocked in with 30 seconds to spare. Her supervisor, Mrs. Talbot, gave her a warning look but said nothing. That was a blessing. In the locker room, she changed into her uniform and splashed water on her face. She looked in the mirror, brushing a finger across the faint line where her cheek had rested on the stranger's hoodie. She didn't even know his name. But for the first time in a long time, someone had treated her with quiet dignity, not pity, not judgment. Just kindness. As she stepped out into the hallway with her cleaning cart, she whispered to herself, "Probably won't ever see him again." But she hoped she was wrong. Little did she know, somewhere across the street, Gavin Reed had just blocked off his entire calendar at 6:30 every morning for the rest of the week. The next morning, Nora barely had time to brush her hair. Leela had cried until 3 a.m., and the coffee machine had decided to die exactly 5 minutes before she was about to leave. Still, she pushed the stroller briskly down the cracked sidewalk, her tired steps moving with purpose. Somehow, she made it to the 6:30 train with 1 minute to spare. To her surprise, he was there again, same seat, same gray hoodie, looking out the window. She hesitated before sitting, unsure if she should greet him or just pretend they were strangers again. But when he saw her, he smiled, a warm, friendly smile that made her feel like she belonged somewhere. "Good morning," he said. "You made it." "Barely," she replied with a breathless laugh, settling into the seat next to him. Layla had another rough night. The baby, tucked securely in the carrier on Nora's chest, stirred slightly but stayed asleep. Gavin glanced at the baby. "She seems peaceful now. You must be doing something right." Nora chuckled. "It's mostly trial and error. More error than trial, if I'm being honest." There was a comfortable silence between them for a few moments. The hum of the train and the muffled morning chatter of passengers filled the air. Then Gavin spoke again. "So, is this your everyday route?" "Yep, Monday to Friday. Same time, same train. It's my only moment of quiet before the madness begins." He nodded. "I'm Gavin, by the way. Gavin Reed." Nora blinked, surprised he hadn't introduced himself earlier. "I'm Nora, and this is Layla, though I guess you already knew her name from the pacifier tag." "I did," he admitted with a grin. "Didn't want to seem like a stalker, though." Nora laughed, genuinely this time. "Well, thanks again for yesterday. I really needed that nap more than I realized." "You're welcome," he said, then added, "You looked like you carried more than just a baby yesterday. Like life's been a little too heavy lately." Nora nodded slowly. "You could say that. I've been on my own since Lila was born. Her dad disappeared when I told him I was pregnant. No calls, no visits, nothing." "I'm sorry," Gavin said softly. "It's okay. I've made peace with it. Leela and we're a team now. It's not easy, but she gives me purpose." He looked at her with quiet admiration. "She's lucky to have you." The train jolted slightly as it pulled into another station. Nora noticed a few familiar faces, people she saw every morning but never spoke to. One of them, an older man, with a mustache and a train conductor's badge, gave her a wink. "That's Sammy," she whispered. "He knows everyone's business. Be careful what you say around him." "Noted," Gavin said with a smirk. The conversation drifted to lighter things. Nora's dream of finishing her university degree in translation. Her nightly English classes, her favorite park in the city where she sometimes took Lila on weekends when she could afford it. "And you?" she asked. "What do you do, Gavin?" He paused, then smiled casually. "I work in business consulting. Lots of numbers and meetings. Nothing too exciting." Nora tilted her head. "So you ride the train to escape?" He shrugged. "Something like that." He didn't lie completely, but it wasn't the whole truth either. Gavin wasn't just a consultant. He was the CEO of Reed Technologies, a company with offices in 5 countries, but he wasn't ready to tell her that yet. Not because he didn't trust her. He didn't trust the version of himself that came with that title, the one who'd lived in penthouses and shook hands in boardrooms. The one who had everything and still felt hollow. But when he talked to Nora, when he watched her hold her baby and speak about her future with tired hope in her voice, he felt something different. Real. Over the next week, their morning train rides became routine. Nora would sit beside Gavin, and they'd talk about everything from baby food recipes to books they wanted to read. Sometimes they just sat in silence, drinking in the rare comfort of being understood. One morning, Gavin handed her a small paper bag. "What's this?" she asked, surprised. "Banana muffins," he said. "I remembered you said you missed breakfast most mornings. These are store-bought, so don't get too excited." Nora pulled one out and bit into it. "Still better than anything I've eaten before noon in weeks." "Thank you." That day, Gavin canceled a meeting just to take the long way into his office. Marta, his assistant, noticed. "You're avoiding the boardroom again?" she asked, narrowing her eyes. "Just taking some fresh air," he replied with a grin. She frowned. "You're smiling a lot lately. Is this a midlife crisis?" He laughed, hardly. But deep down, Gavin knew it was something more serious. He was falling for a woman who thought he was an ordinary man. And every morning they sat together. On that train, he dreaded the day she'd find out who he really was. Because what if the truth ended everything? As Nora stepped off the train the next morning, she turned and waved. "See you tomorrow?" Gavin nodded. "You bet." And as the train pulled away, he whispered to himself, "I really hope so." Nora had never looked forward to her mornings until now. The sound of the train, the rhythm of the city, the warm paper bag Gavin always brought with breakfast inside. It was all starting to feel like the best part of her day. Like the beginning of something. She wasn't foolish. She knew life didn't hand people like her happy endings. But the way Gavin listened, the way he remembered small things, the way he made Leela laugh, it made her hope. And that scared her more than she wanted to admit. It had been 3 weeks since that first day on the train. And during those weeks, Gavin had become a part of her world. Quietly, gently, and without asking for anything in return. She still didn't know much about his life, just that he worked in business, lived alone, and didn't talk much about his family. Nora assumed he was just private, maybe shy. But there was something about the way he dodged certain questions that tugged at her. Curiosity. On a cool Wednesday morning, Nora rushed into the hotel with Lila in her arms and her work bag bouncing against her side. Her manager, Sheila, stood at the front desk, nervously flipping through papers. "Nora, can you help set up the conference room upstairs?" she asked. "Big corporate event this week. Very important clients. Some tech company, Reed Technologies." Or something like that. Nora froze. Her heartbeat quickened. "Reed Technologies?" Sheila nodded. "Yeah, CEO is coming in today. Big deal, apparently. Try not to bump into any executives with your mop." She forced a polite laugh, but her mind was racing. The name sounded familiar, too familiar. Reed. "Wait," she whispered, pulling out her phone and searching quickly. There it was. Gavin Reed, CEO of Reed Technologies. A full page of results came up, including photos, slick suits, awards, magazine covers. And there he was, smiling under a spotlight. Standing in front of his company's logo, her stomach dropped. She stared at the image on her screen and felt the floor shift beneath her. The man who had sat beside her every morning. The one who shared banana muffins and asked about her dreams. The one who never said he was rich or powerful or famous. He had lied. That night Nora couldn't sleep. Leila was finally quiet, but her own thoughts were loud and heavy. She sat on the edge of her bed, still in her uniform, phone in hand. Messages from Gavin sat unread. Hope your shift went okay. Thinking of you and Leila. Train tomorrow, train tomorrow. She didn't even know who he was anymore. The next morning, Nora got on the train. Not because she wanted to see him, but because she needed answers. Gavin looked up the moment she walked in. His smile faded the second he saw her face. Nora, he said softly. Is everything okay? She didn't answer. Just sat beside him and stared straight ahead. You lied to me, she finally said, her voice calm but cold. Gavin's breath caught. You know, I saw your photo online, the hotel conference. You're the CEO. He nodded slowly. Yes, I am. And yet for 3 weeks you let me believe you were some regular guy. Just a consultant, just someone passing time. On a train, I didn't mean to lie, he said quickly. I didn't want you to see that version of me. The one with the title, I wanted you to know me. Why didn't you just tell the truth from the start? Gavin looked at her, eyes tired, but honest. Because people treat me differently once they know. They act like I'm someone I'm not, but with you, you were real. You didn't care about money or status. You looked at me like a person. Not a paycheck, Nora shook her head. You say that like it makes it better. Like I should be flattered you chose to pretend to be poor, just to. What? Study me? No, Gavin said, clearly hurt. It wasn't like that. At first, yes, I started riding the train to break out of the bubble I was living in. I was sick of my world. But the second you fell asleep on my shoulder, that all changed. Spare me the poetic speech, she snapped. I don't need fairy tales. I need people who are honest with me. I am honest with you now, he said quietly. She turned to face him. But how do I know what's real and what's not? I can show you, he said, almost begging. Let me explain everything. The train pulled into her stop. She stood without a word. Nora, please. I trusted you, she said, holding Leila close. And now I don't know if any of this meant anything to you. It meant everything, he said. You and Leila, you've changed me. She didn't look back. She stepped off the train, and for the first time in weeks, she didn't wave goodbye. Gavin sat there alone, the seat beside him feeling colder than ever. And for the first time in a long time, he didn't know how to fix what was broken. 3 days passed. No messages. No muffins. No Gavin. Nora tried to stay focused on work, on Leila, on her English night classes, but her mind kept drifting back to him. To the look on his face when she walked off the train. To the way he said, "You've changed me." She didn't know what to believe anymore. Part of her felt foolish. The other part missed him so deeply it hurt. That Friday evening, while feeding Leila mashed carrots in their small kitchen, Nora's phone rang. Unknown number. Her first instinct was to ignore it. But something told her to pick up. Double quotes. Hello? Nora. The voice was quiet, familiar. It's me, Gavin. She said nothing. I know you don't owe me anything. And I know I've hurt you. But I'd like one chance to tell you everything. No lies, no fancy words. Just the truth. She took a deep breath. One chance. Public place. 30 minutes. He didn't hesitate. Tomorrow. The cafe near the train station. 3 o'clock. I'll be there. The next day, Gavin arrived 10 minutes early, holding a small bouquet of yellow daisies. Nora walked in with Leila on her hip, her face unreadable. Hi, he said softly. Your time starts now, she replied. Sitting across from him. Gavin looked nervous. Not like the confident man she once imagined him to be. More like the man on the train. The one who carried muffins and listened closely. "I didn't mean to deceive you," he began. "I started riding the train because I was tired of living in a world where no one looked each other in the eye. I thought I'd learn about the real world, but then I met you. And suddenly, I wasn't learning, I was feeling." She stayed quiet, arms wrapped around Lila, who was slowly drifting to sleep. "I lied about what I do," Gavin continued. "Not to make fun of your life, but because I wanted to step outside of mine. I was afraid if you knew who I was, you'd think I was just another rich guy trying to feel better about himself. Wasn't that kind of true, though?" She asked gently. "Maybe at first," he admitted, "but not anymore. I didn't fall in love with your story, Nora. I fell in love with you." Her eyes softened for the first time since she sat down. "You, what? I love you. And I love Leila. You both made me realize I was living without meaning. You brought me back to life." Nora looked down at the table, her heart pounding. "Why didn't you just tell me the truth the second we became close?" "Because I was scared of losing you, and now I have." He reached into his coat pocket and pulled out an envelope. "These are the receipts for the clinic. I helped pay for Leila's last appointment. And the donation I made to the language school, they used it to create the night class you now teach. I never did it to impress you. I did it because I care." She opened the envelope and scanned the documents, stunned. "Why would you do all of this?" "Because when someone matters to you, you help them, no matter what." Nora looked at Lila, then back at Gavin. "I don't know if I can just forgive everything. I'm not asking you to forgive me today," he said. "But I am asking for a chance to earn back your trust, day by day, truth by truth." She was quiet for a long moment. Then slowly, she reached across the table and took his hand. "Okay," she said softly. "One day at a time." 6 months later, the 6:30 train was quieter than usual. Gavin sat in the same seat, wearing the same gray hoodie. But now, his face lit up as Nora walked on with Lila, who had just started walking and was toddling beside her in tiny pink shoes. They took their usual spots. The conductor, Sammy, gave them a wave. "Morning, beautiful family," he called. Nora smiled, tucking Lila close. "You hear that? We're a family now." Gavin nodded. "Not just a family, a team." She looked at him, love shining in her eyes. "You still bringing banana muffins?" "Every morning." They both laughed. As the train pulled into the next stop, Nora leaned her head on his shoulder, just like the first day, but this time, not from exhaustion. From peace. "Do you ever miss your old life?" she asked. Gavin shook his head. "Not even a little. Not the suits, the offices, the meetings? Nope," he replied. "I traded all that for something better." "What's that?" "You and her," he said, kissing Lila's tiny hand. Nora smiled. "Love without labels." He looked at her, eyes shining. "The only kind that matters." As the train rolled on, they sat together in quiet joy, ready to face whatever came next. One train ride, one muffin, and one morning at a time.